Eyes forward, smiles up.
Hi, my name's Katy Tate, and I'm originally from Longwood, Florida. It's just north of Orlando. And I started dancing when I was 3 years old, and it's just because my parents were going to the grocery store and there was a dance studio right next to it, and I was like, I want to do that. So I started dancing then, and then I got into some professional work when I was 15, and that just kept growing my passion for it, and I ended up moving around for the work. I graduated from high school and I moved to LA on a dance scholarship, and I continued schooling through an independent study program where I studied psychology, and then I did my full 14 classes a week as well as my college classes online, and it was a lot, but I ended up signing with an agency out in LA just after that, and I worked for a while out there, and then I got a full-time offer back in Orlando at Disney World, and so I took that, and I worked at Epcot for a while, and then I did a musical up in New Orleans, Chicago, and then I came back to Florida for another offer there at Animal Kingdom, and I did the Disney thing again, and soon after that, I went out just to check out what the scene was like in Las Vegas. Never really thought that it would be a place that I would end up for as long as I have, but now I've been here for almost 11 years. I moved out here for a smaller show called Fashionistas, and I did that for about 2.5 years. And then I moved into the Showgirl Must Go On, Bette Midler's show at Caesar's Palace. And after that, I had been doing a lot of production and choreographic work along the side for many, many years, and I knew that that was an area that I wanted to move into for sure. I got just as much fulfillment from that as I did from performing. So as soon as I finished with Bette, a position opened up with Cirque Du Soleil, where I currently am, and I've been at Love now as the dance master for, goodness, almost 6 years. And with that, we get to do a lot of creative work on the show, integrating new artists, creating new choreographies, and the show has just gone through a new refresh where we have pretty much a brand new show, and we're really excited about it, so that's where I am now. Well, I mean, that's hard to say. It's so variable, and I think at different phases of your life, there's many setbacks that you'll face. For me, I'm an extremely tall girl, and so that kind of pigeonholed me as to certain positions that I could be in, and I was the type of dancer that liked to be athletic, that I really wanted to use my technique, and so I wanted to do what I call short people shows, where I just really got in there and busted it, and thankfully I was able to pick up consistent work throughout my performance career. And then of course making that transition is usually quite difficult for people, and there was a period that was difficult for me as well, but I was very fortunate that timings worked out as they did, and thankfully I was able to move into the same genre of what I do on the creative end, but being on the other side of it, and I love it just as much as being on stage. For me, the draw wasn't just the applause, it was being able to create something. And so, you know, as anybody would know, it's just really being persistent and pushing through when you feel like, man, I can't do this anymore. That's when you have to keep going. So, well, first you have to love it, first and foremost, because it's not as glamorous as you may think it is from the outside. It's quite rigorous, takes a lot of training, takes a lot of moments where you feel like you are horrible. But again, those are the moments that you grow when you get like beat down to that. When I was in LA, I remember taking classes on my scholarship program, and you would be in your 13th class of the week, and you were exhausted, and the teacher was just screaming at you like, come on, this is the moment when you're gonna get better, is when you're just down like to bare bones. And it's true. And I think all of that is such a metaphor for the rest of your life, and all of those skills I learned then are definitely what prepared me for this career, because it's difficult, and your own product too, so it's hard not to take things personally, but you have to create that line or it's going to break you down. So I'd say that actually is quite an important skill to find, is being able to separate yourself and the product that you're selling. Well, there's many people in my life that have impacted me, of course starting on a personal front with my parents, and also on a business front. They're both self-employed, creative people. My dad is a musician, my mom is a costume designer. So the interesting part with that is having parents in entertainment, of course they were fully there to support me, yet they were gonna slap me with realism. They weren't just gonna be like, oh, you were great. They're gonna be like, what did you think about that? You know? But now that I'm older and I can see it from a different perspective, extremely appreciative of that. It was difficult at the time, but so they certainly are people that I looked up to, people that motivated me, and people that I can obviously speak to each day and kind of push me to get better at what I do. But I would have to say that my two most substantial dance teachers, Kathy Gillespie and Deborah, they were and still are a huge impact on my life. Kathy was the one who, it was showbiz, and it was the lights and the glamour and the fun side of it all, and she was extremely positive, and she was like a mother to me. And then there was Deborah Barnes. She was the one who cracked the whip. She was the technician, the one who was going to give it to you real, and she taught me how to have the strength and be able to, you know, have balls, as she would say. I don't want to use that, but you know, I think that balance was really important, and so I really go back to much of the advice that each of them gave me. And when you need to kind of pull yourself out of those difficult times and look at things from a more positive, light perspective, I think back onto some of the things that Kathy reminded me of. And then when I get into those moments where I need to just like sink my teeth in and be like, all right, I got to get through this, or I need to figure out where I'm going to pull this strength from, that's where I think back onto some of the things that Deborah taught me. So I would say those two people on a professional level are the ones that I go back to often. I actually have one experience that I would say, and it really has nothing to do with performance. It goes back to my childhood. I got a new bike, went for Christmas, and my dad was, it was my first one without training wheels. So he was showing me or teaching me how to ride it without training wheels. And I got really frustrated because I kept falling, and I ended up throwing the bike down and running into the house and said, I can't do this. And he came into my bedroom and he's like, all right, I'm gonna need to talk to you about what just happened. Just very calmly, communicative. You know, I was young, but he wanted to speak to me like an adult, and he said, I want you to explain to me the two things that you just did wrong. And of course the first was I was given this beautiful gift and I threw it down on the ground, and complete disrespect of that gift. And secondly, I said I was not able to do something. And he said, you will never put yourself in a position to think that you cannot do something. You can always do it. It's whether or not you want to try hard enough. And that is something that I always go back to. And I'm really appreciative that my parents wanted to speak to us like adults and let us understand the repercussions of our actions, because I see it played out now in my adult life. So. Well, I would say I actually worked on a project this summer, a pilot project with Cirque, where we're looking to kind of merge the dance convention world and Cirque Du Soleil shows. It's an interesting story because someone who I grew up dancing with on convention and was a title winner with, he is now currently a dancer on Love, and I'm his coach. And so together we teamed up with Break the Floor Productions, and we had a presence at the Dance Awards, which is their nationals for all their 3 regionals, now 4 regionals. And we did it simply as a pilot project, but we had, I think, 700 kids in our first workshop and 650 or so in the next one. And to see that turnout and the amount of work that was put into the project, and knowing where we had come from, because both him and I were those kids on the floor, and then we were the ones on the stage kind of giving back in that whole cyclical process that it is. That was a really beautiful moment for me, because it was a passion project, and now it's expanding, and this year we're gonna do Orlando, Vegas, and then a model of what we hope to do in the future, which is at Dancerpalooza. It's gonna be an 8-day event where we're gonna have rigging, sound, makeup, costume, interactive projection, guest choreographers, kind of giving a taste to up-and-coming performers, up-and-coming audience members, what Cirque du Soleil is. So that was a really beautiful moment for me. Well, I think obviously people want to know how to further themselves, how to get into a show, how to find success. and that's the elusive question, right? I mean, what is success really? But it just comes down to being a squeaky wheel, and that's a hard thing to do. It was hard for me too, because I'm not an in-your-face kind of person. I don't want to be like, hey, look at me, this is me, buy this. You know, I'm not a salesperson. And you kind of have to be a bit of a salesperson, and you have to keep knocking on doors, even when you feel like, oh, they've turned me down 20 times. But it's the nature of it, because one day they're going to be like, oh, there's a perfect spot for you here now. And that's really what it's about. It's, again, that persistence, going back to what we spoke about earlier. It's just that, and keeping the love for it. The moment that you don't love it anymore, you need to get out, because you'll start to resent it. And dance is, you can't resent it. It's a release. Well, altruistic work is very important to me, and I have an event that is in its third installment now. It's called Kick for a Cure, and it's kind of an extension of an event that my mentor that I spoke of earlier, Kathy Gillespie, she founded an event called Kick for Care, which raised money for the neonatal intensive care unit at Arnold Palmer Hospital. And CARE, K-A-R-E, stood for Kids Are the Responsibility of Everyone. So unfortunately, she passed from cancer, and I felt the need to kind of continue that legacy, but move it more toward in honor of her. So all of the funds for Kick for a Cure now, they fund Cancer Treatment Centers of America. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch people come out and give their time and pull themselves out of their own world and dance for and teach for and learn for something so much larger than just themselves. That's when the magic happens, is when we kind of separate ourselves from our own ego and just are there for the love. So that's really important to me.
But if you could only use one word to describe your life as an entrepreneur, what would it be?
One word to describe my life as an entrepreneur. I mean, goodness, that is a hard question. I wouldn't necessarily consider myself to be an entrepreneur fully, because I work still with a team and underneath a corporate umbrella. But I would say organization. It's all about organization and planning and preparedness and teamwork, really. You don't do anything on your own. It's all about the people that are your support system. And so that's not one word, but that's the best I can do.